Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, now, Mr. Trump has arrived here in the midst of a growing row over America's future trade relations with the UK after the US ambassador to London suggested that parts of the NHS should be on the table and that American goods like chlorinated chicken would have to be allowed into the UK market as part of any post-Brexit deal. Victoria MacDonald has more.
They're coming over here and taking our NHS and giving us chlorinated chicken in return. A spectre raised by opponents of a US-UK trade deal post-Brexit, and now thrown into sharp relief by the president's own man in London.
You know, the entire economy would, in a trade deal, all things that are traded would be on the table.
Which includes healthcare.
I would think so.
So the question is, what price a post-EU deal? The fact is, there are already numerous American healthcare companies here, like those who run private hospitals and clinics, the Princess Grace behind me, and others who have contracts with the NHS, mainly for IT and backroom support. So there are those who argue that that door is already wide open. Others say that a UK-US trade deal would lead to whole-scale privatisation of the NHS, and they fear that this could not be reversed. This is certainly Labour's argument against such a trade deal.
There are real fears that if big US health companies get involved in a public national health service, getting access to data, trying to make profit out of people's data, that undermines the fabric of a public national health service. And what happens when you undermine the fabric of a public national health service is eventually only treatments which are designated as profitable are provided on a public NHS, and other treatments are rationed and restricted.
The US president's plane had barely touched down, though, on the tarmac before both the former and the current health secretaries sought to play down or reassure a nervous public. Matt Hancock tweeting, "The NHS is not for sale," adding, "Yes, we'd love to make it cheaper to buy your life-saving pharmaceuticals, but the NHS will not be on the table in any future trade talks." Yet it is drugs, American pharmaceuticals, that could be the biggest problem for the NHS in any trade deal.
I don't think you're going to privatise the National Health Service through a trade deal. Trade deal just gives access to US firms, but in a lot of cases they already have this access to the National Health Service. The really big concern is that President Trump has said he wants to see foreign countries pay more for drugs developed in the US, and the NHS is a really big target for that, because not only does it set pricing throughout the UK, it's used as a reference price for countries around the world.
Then there's the chlorinated chicken problem, a practice banned in the EU because they believe it leads to farmers taking shortcuts, hoping the bacteria will be washed off at the last minute. A Channel 4 Dispatches Tonight reveals conditions in an American factory where the chickens are chemically washed, raising unpalatable questions over serious hygiene and safety practices.
Chicken pieces caught in machinery, chicken pieces and innards covering the floor, flooded floor areas, and water leaking from machinery.
Not everybody agrees that chemically washed chickens or hormone-injected cows are bad for human consumption. Instead, it remains at the very least symbolic of concerns over lack of regulation and welfare. And even though it makes for cheaper meat, it is a practice the British public finds hard to swallow.
Well, Victoria MacDonald reporting.